Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more philosophy. Today we are diving back into the works of Friedrich Nietzsche. We are in Thus Spake Zarathustra. We are in the second part, chapter 28. This is The Rabble. But before we begin, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time you get lost in the weeds or the terminology, there are several playlists that are linked in the corner up here and in the box down below, along with the source material, so that you can go back and understand what I am talking about. I tend to put the explanations towards the front of the playlist so that you can decide whether or not you want to listen to me. We will be reading aloud and discussing at the end of the chapters how I've normally been doing these. Uh, and that's not the format for everybody. Some people don't like listening to me talk, some people don't like listening to me read, but some people seem to enjoy it, so we're going to talk about it. We are going through it, attempting to dispense a little bit of knowledge as we go along. You are more than welcome to tag along. Let's dive into The Rabble. Life is a well of delight, but where the rabble also drink, there all fountains are poisoned. To everything cleanly am I well disposed, but I hate to see the grinning mouths and the thirst of the unclean. They cast their eye down into the fountain, and now glanceth up to me their odious smile out of the fountain. The holy water they have poisoned with their lustfulness, and when they called their filthy dreams delight, then poisoned they also the words. Indignant becometh the flame when they put their damp hearts to the fire. The spirit itself bubbleth and smoketh when the rabble approach the fire. Mawkish and over mellow becometh the fruit in their hands, unsteady and withered at the top doth their look make the fruit tree. And many a one who hath turned away from life hath only turned away from the rabble. He hated to share with them fountain, flame, and fruit. And many a one who hath gone into the wilderness and suffered thirst with beasts of prey disliked only to sit at the cistern with filthy camel drivers. And many a one who hath come along as a destroyer and as a hailstorm to all cornfields wanted merely to put his foot into the jaws of the rabble and thus stop their throat. And it is not the mouthful which hath most choked me to know that life itself requireth enmity and death and torture crosses. But I asked once, and suffocated almost with my question, what is the rabble also what? Is the rabble also necessary for life? Are poisoned fountains necessary, and stinking fires and filthy dreams and maggots in the bread of life? Not my hatred, but my loathing gnawed hungrily at my life. Oft times became I weary of spirit, when I found even the rabble spiritual. And on the rulers turned I my back, and when I saw what they now call ruling, to traffic and bargain for power with the rabble, amongst peoples of a strange language did I dwell with stopped ears, so that the language of their trafficking might remain strange unto me, and their bargaining for power. And holding my nose, I went morosely through all yesterdays and todays. Verily, badly smell all yesterdays and todays of the scrabbling rabble. Like a cripple become deaf and blind and dumb, thus have I lived long, that I might not live with the power rabble, the scribe rabble, and the pleasure rabble. Toilsomely did my spirit mount stairs, and cautiously. Alms of delight were its refreshment. On the staff did creep along with the blind one. What hath happened unto me? How have I freed myself from loathing? Who hath rejuvenated mine eye? How have I flown to the height where no rabble any longer sit at the wells? Did my loathing itself create for me wings and fountain divining powers? Verily, to the loftiest height had I to fly, and to find again the well of delight. Oh, I have found it, my brethren. Here, on the loftiest height, bubbleth up for me the well of delight, and there is a life at whose waters none of the rabble drink with me. Almost too violently dost thou flow for me, thou fountain of delight, and often emptiest thou the goblet again, in wanting to fill it. And yet must I learn to approach thee more modestly, for too violently doth my heart still flow towards thee. My heart on which my summer burneth, my short, hot, melancholy, over-happy summer, how my summer heart longeth for thy coolness. Past the lingering distress of my spring, past the wickedness of my snowflakes in June, summer have I become entirely, and summer noontide. A summer on the loftiest heights with cold fountains and blissful stillness. Oh, come, my friends, that the stillness may become more blissful. For this is our height and our home. Too high and steep do we here dwell for all uncleanly ones and their thirst. Cast but your pure eyes into the well of my delight, friends. How could it become turbid thereby? It shall laugh back to you with its purity. On the tree of the future build we our nest. Eagles shall bring us lone ones food in their beaks. Verily no food of which the impure could be fellow partakers. Fire would they think they devoured and burn their mouths. Verily no abodes do we keep ready for the impure. An ice cave to their bodies would our happiness be, and to their spirits. And as strong winds, we will live above them, neighbors to the eagles, neighbors to the snow, neighbors to the sun. Thus live the strong winds. And like a wind will I one day blow amongst them, and with my spirit take the breath from their spirit. Thus willeth my future. Verily, a strong wind is Zarathustra to all low places, and his counsel counselleth he and his enemies, and to whatever spitteth and speweth, take care not to spit against the wind. Thus spake Zarathustra. And he brings to mind one of my own particular axioms. This is of my own device, so arguing with the willfully ignorant is like pissing into the wind. You get it out there, but you just wind up pissy. That is basically what he is saying here, right? Most people have no desire for enlightenment. They have really no desire to even better their own lives. They are perfectly complacent to trudge along in mediocrity and debauchery. You are not meant for that. You are meant to rise above it. You are meant to mentally alchemize yourself. We have a whole playlist on Hermes Trismegistus, and while some of that is magical, some of it is quite practical. And the rising above the common rabble is mental alchemy. It is no longer allowing the things of this world to affect you in quite the same way. He never got there, right? He was a big one for run away to the woods. Let's go to the mountains. Let's retreat from the world because everybody is despicable. And I can fully empathize with that, but I cannot sympathize with that. Right? I can understand where you're coming from, but I cannot do it myself. Isolating yourself from the world is the way to not solve anything. Now, I do that. I really do. I stay in my little box here in this little room a lot of the time, but it's not necessarily because I don't want to be out. It's just that it is not necessarily fruitful to be out. And so I invest my time in this. I invest my time in trying to raise up more people. This is me going out into the world writ large, right? I could go out and I could talk to probably 15 or 20 people significantly a day if I really applied myself. But in this way, I get to talk to several hundred people a day. Someday it'll be thousands or even millions. But for now, there are several hundred people a day that tune in to what I do here. This is me attempting to not exclude myself from the world, because there is no growth if it is just you in the middle of nowhere. This, what I do here, is not the end-all be-all of what I will be doing. This whole channel is the groundwork, right? We do groundwork videos all the time to lay out what we are doing and to organize what will be coming forward. That is what this whole channel is about. We are dispensing philosophy in the order to help you try to think a little bit better. I am dispensing esoterica so that you know that the spiritual matters are actually true, despite what other people might try to tell you. I do the reaction videos because We talk about very real issues in those. It is not just me going, ooh, ah. I don't do that. We talk about real things. That is me intentionally not isolating myself from the world. It is me opening myself up and my opinions up to criticisms from the entire world. Anyone on the planet who hasn't managed to get themselves blocked can watch my video and comment whatever they want. We can talk about things, although I do not, in any instance, argue in the comments. I will correct you once, but that's about all you're ever going to get from me, right? I'm not going to go into extensive talks in the comments about things because the comments cannot portray the tone of the conversation. It's why I do long form videos in one take, right? Sometimes there's a cut in between, but it is not often. Most of the time, I am sitting down and talking to you as if we were talking together, right? When I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me sometimes, but we are talking about these things as if we were together so that you can understand where I come from in a very real way. The tone and the inflection of my voice makes a difference. The emphasis I place with this hand makes a difference. The way that my eyes do makes a difference in how the information is conveyed. And simple text can never do that. It's way too easy to be misunderstood in comments, so I don't argue in the comments. That is me isolating myself from the world. My long form content is me putting myself into the world. There will be a physical going forth into the world at some point, but for now we are still doing groundwork. This whole thing is about isolating yourself from other people, the people who do not serve you a purpose. And guess what? They're not here to serve you a purpose. You are here to serve them a purpose. You are here to bring enlightenment to them. You are here to bring understanding to them, not to get it from them. There are cases to learn, abso-fucking-lutely. Every step along the way, somebody is going to teach you something, especially the people you don't agree with, especially the people that you want to isolate yourself away from. Everyone that you have ever met is here to help you learn a lesson. Sometimes the lesson is shitty, and sometimes the lesson is you need to shut up and learn something. And too many people would rather isolate themselves on the top of a mountain than to actually listen to a contradicting idea and talk about it. This is 29. The tarantulas. Lo, this is the tarantula's den. Wouldst thou see the tarantula itself? Here hangeth its web, touch this, so that it may tremble. There cometh the tarantula willingly. Welcome, tarantula. Black on thy back is thy triangle and symbol, and I know also what is in thy soul. Revenge is in thy soul. Wherever thou bitest, there ariseth black scab. With revenge thy poison maketh the soul giddy. Thus do I speak unto you in parable, ye who make the soul giddy, ye preachers of equality. Tarantulas are ye unto me, and secretly revengeful ones. But I will soon bring your hiding places to the light. Therefore do I laugh in your face, my laughter of the height. Therefore do I tear at your web, that your rage may lure you out of your den of lies, and that your revenge may leap forth from behind your word, justice. Because for man to be redeemed from revenge, that is for me the bridge to the highest hope and a rainbow after long storms. Otherwise, however, would the tarantulas have it. Let it be very justice for the world to become full of the storms of our vengeance. Thus do they talk to one another. Vengeance we will use and insult against all who are not like us. Thus do the tarantula hearts pledge themselves. And will to equality, that itself shall henceforth be the name of virtue. And against all that hath power will we raise an outcry. Ye teachers of equality, the tyrant frenzy of impotence crieth thus in you for equality. Your most secret tyrant longings disguise themselves thus in virtue words. Fretted conceit and suppressed envy, perhaps your father's conceit and envy, in you they break forth as flame and frenzy of vengeance. What the Father hath hid cometh out in the Son, and oft have I found the Son the Father's revealed secret. Inspired ones they resemble, but it is not the heart that inspireth them, but vengeance. And when they become subtle and cold, it is not spirit, but envy that makes them so. Their jealousy leadeth them also into thinkers' paths, and this is the sign of their jealousy. They always go too far, so that their fatigue hath at least to go to sleep on the snow. In all their lamentations soundeth vengeance, in all their eulogies is maleficence, and being judged seemeth to them bliss. But thus do I counsel you, my friends, distrust all in whom the impulse to punish is powerful. They are people of bad race and lineage. Out of their countenances peer the hangman and the sleuth-hound. Distrust all those who talk much of their justice. Verily, in their souls not only honey is lacking. And when they call themselves the good and the just, forget not that for them to be Pharisees, nothing is lacking but power. My friends, I will not be mixed up and confounded with others. There are those who preach my doctrine of life and are at the same time preachers of equality and tarantulas. That they speak in favor of life, though they sit in their den, these poison spiders, and withdrawn from life, is because they would thereby do injury. To those that would they thereby do injury who have power at present, for with those the preaching of death is still most at home. Were it otherwise, then would the tarantulas teach otherwise, and they themselves were formerly the best world maligners and heretic burners. With these preachers of equality will I not be mixed up and confounded, for thus speaketh justice unto me. Men are not equal, and neither shall they become so. What would be my love to the Superman if I spake otherwise? On 1,000 bridges and piers shall they throng to the future, and always shall there be more war and inequality among them. Thus doth my great love make me speak. Inventors of figures and phantoms shall they be in their hostilities, and with those figures and phantoms shall they yet fight with each other the supreme fight. Good and evil, and rich and poor, and high and low, and all names of values. Weapons shall they be, and sounding signs, that life must again and again surpass itself. Aloft will it build itself with columns and stairs, life itself. Into remote distances would it gaze, and out towards blissful beauties. Therefore doth it require elevation. And because it requireth elevation, therefore doth it require steps, invariance of steps and climbers. To rise striveth life, and in rising to surpass itself. And just behold, my friends, here where the tarantula's den is, riseth the loft, and ancient temple ruins. Just behold it with enlightened eyes. Verily, he who here towered aloft his thoughts in stone knew as well as the wisest ones about the secret of life, that there is struggle and inequality even in beauty, and war for power and supremacy. That doth he here teach us in the plainest parable. How divinely do vault and arch here contrast in the struggle, how with light and shade they strive against each other, the divinely striving ones. Thus, steadfast and beautiful, let us also be enemies, my friend. Divinely will we strive against one another. Alas, there hath the tarantula bit me myself, mine old enemy. Divinely steadfast and beautiful, it hath bit me on the finger. Punishment must there be, and justice so thinketh it. Not gratuitously shall he here sing songs in honor of enmity. Yea, it hath revenged itself, and alas, now will it make my soul also dizzy with revenge. That I may not turn dizzy, however, Bind me fast, my friends, to this pillar. Rather will I be a pillar saint than a whirlwind of vengeance. Verily, no cyclone or whirlwind is Zarathustra, and if he be a dancer, he is not at all a tarantula dancer. Thus spoke Zarathustra. And here we get a pretty good argument against communism. We have a saying here in the United States that all men are created equal, and that is true. But not all men are equal. That is also true, and it is contradictory, and that is hard to comprehend, right? But you are created perfect, whole, and complete. You have the capacity to be good. You just don't often choose that. And so, the people who choose to do good are better. You don't have to like that. It's true, though. I used to be one of the not betters, and now hopefully I am one of the betters. But there was a point in my time when I was not equal to the person that I am now. That is undisputable. I am now better than I was then, and therefore everybody's not equal, even within ourselves. Hopefully, your goal is to not be the tarantula, right? The naysayers, the ones who are holding other people back, spreading poison, backbiting, causing strife and contention. I try desperately to not get involved in that. If y'all aren't aware, I do reaction videos. I am intentional in what I choose to put in these reaction videos. There are well over 1,000 of them now, and almost all of them are positive in nature. Almost all of them have to deal with overcoming addiction, depression, anxiety, or some form of those type of things. Almost everything that I have done a reaction video to is people striving to help you not be the tarantula, to not be the one seeking to hurt others, or even yourself. There was a time in my life, then that playlist would have been completely different. There was a point in my life when I would have been following the exact opposite types of things, and in that, I was less than I am now, and therefore cannot be equal to even what I am now. You have the capacity to be good, but if you are striving to make people equal, you are doing it wrong. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't have an opportunity. I fully believe in the all men are created equal. You just choose not to be. You are choosing to not be the best version of yourself, even according to your own standards. Right? That was one of my key wake-up moments when I realized that I was not even being true to myself, that I was not being the best me that I could be. Instead, I was conforming myself to others. Jordan Peterson helped me with that, and hopefully what I do here helps other people to see the same thing. You have the potential to be better. Not necessarily better than other people, although that is part of it, but better than you were yesterday. That should be your goal. That should be your strive. Not to disrupt other people, not to go and find arguments to get in, not to go and be involved in wars and bitter backbiting, but instead to be better today than I was yesterday should be your earnest and honest goal. And if it is, then you're already better than I used to be. 25. 15. The famous wise ones. The people have ye served, and the people's superstition, not the truth. All ye famous wise ones, and just on that account did they pay you reverence. And on that account also did they tolerate your unbelief, because it was a pleasantry and a bypath for the people. Thus doth a master give free scope to his slaves, and even enjoyeth their presumptiveness. But he who is hated by the people, as the wolf is by the dogs, is the free spirit, the enemy of fetters, the non-adorer, the dweller in the woods. To hunt him out of his lair, that was always called sense of right by the people, on him do they still hound their sharpest toothed dogs. For there the truth is where the people are. Woe, woe to the seeking ones. Thus hath it echoed through all time. Your people would your people would ye justify in their reverence that called ye will to truth, ye famous ones. And your heart hath always said to itself, from the people have I come. From thence came to me also the voice of God. Stiff-necked and artful like the ass have ye always been, as the advocates of the people. And many a powerful one, who wanted to run well with the people, hath harnessed in front of his horses a donkey, a famous wise man. And now, ye famous wise ones, I would have you finally throw off entirely the skin of the lion, the skin of the beast of prey, the speckled skin, and the disheveled locks of the investigator, the searcher, and the conqueror. For me to learn to believe in your conscientiousness, you would first have to break your venerating will. Conscientious, so call I him who goes into God-forsaken wildernesses, and hath broken his venerating heart. In the yellow sands, and burnt by the sun, he doubtless peereth thirstily at the isles rich in fountains, where life reposeth under shady trees. But his thirst doth not persuade him to become like those comfortable ones, for where there are oases, there are also idols. Hungry, fierce, lonesome, God-forsaken, so doth the lion will wish itself. Free from the happiness of slaves, redeemed from deities and adorations, fearless and fear-inspiring, grand and lonesome, so is the will of the conscientious. In the wilderness have ever dwelt the conscientious, the free spirits as lords of the wilderness. But in the cities dwell the well-foddered, famous wise ones, the draught beasts. For always do they draw, as asses, the people's carts. Not that I, on account, upbraid them, but serving ones do they remain, and harnessed ones, even though they glitter in golden harness. And often have they been good servants, and worthy of their hire. For thus saith virtue, if thou must be a servant, seek him unto whom thy service is most useful. The spirit and virtue of thy master shall advance by thou being his servant. Thus will thou thyself advance with his spirit and virtue. And verily, ye famous wise ones, ye servants of the people, ye yourselves have advanced with the people's spirit and virtue, and the people by you. To your honor do I say it. But the people ye remain for me, even with your virtues, the people with pure blind eyes, the people who know not what spirit is? Spirit is life, which itself cutteth into life. By its own torture doth it increase its own knowledge. Did you know that before? And the Spirit's happiness is this, to be anointed and consecrated with tears as a sacrificial victim. Did you know that before? And the blindness of the blind one in his seeking and groping shall yet testify to the power of the sun into which he hath gazed. Did you know that before? And with mountains shall the discerning one learn to build. It is a small thing for the Spirit to remove mountains. Did you know that before? Ye know only of the sparks of the Spirit, but you do not see the anvil which it is, and the cruelty of its hammer. Verily, ye know not the Spirit's pride, but still less could endure the Spirit's humility, should it ever want to speak. And never yet could ye cast your spirit into a pit of snow. Ye are not hot enough for that. Thus are ye unaware, also, of the delight of its coldness. In all respects, however, ye make too familiar with the Spirit, and out of the wisdom have ye often made an almshouse and a hospital for bad poets. You are not eagles. Thus have you never experienced the happiness of the alarm of the Spirit. And he who is not a bird should not camp above abysses. Ye seem to me lukewarm ones, but coldly flow with all deep knowledge. Ice cold are the innermost wells of the Spirit, a refreshment to hot hands and handlers. Respectable do ye there stand, and stiff, and with straight backs, ye famous wise ones. No strong wind or will impelleth you. Have you never seen a sail crossing the sea, rounded and inflated, and trembling with the violence of the wind? Like the sail, trembling with the violence of the Spirit, doth my wisdom cross the sea, my wild wisdom. But ye servants of the people, ye famous wise ones, how could you go with me? Thus spoke Zarathustra. There is a tendency among those of learned demeanor to portray themselves as better, right? We've already talked about equal. Just because you hold knowledge does not make you better. And there is a very good chance that it is wrong knowledge. Most of the knowledge that is dispensed is wrong, and you will absolutely today find people expounding incorrect things. Billy Carson is a good example of that. Neil deGrasse Tyson, also a very good example of that. They are wise ones. Things that people consider to be learned and understanding, and they have zero conception about the things in which they talk. They are merely speaking what the will of the people would push them into. They are opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Billy, who is pushing something that is completely unfounded, and you have Tyson, who is pushing something that is completely unfounded, and neither one of them have an understanding, but rather have a willingness to serve their audiences. Billy's audience is of the conspiratorial nature, and they suck up the things that he says as if it was gospel truth. Neil deGrasse Tyson's following is the opposite, right? They are scientists who know knowledge and know nothing about which they speak. And so we have two examples of wise ones who indeed are just merely fools. There are a multitude of examples of this throughout the entirety of history. People who are perfectly willing to allow themselves to just parrot the things that they have heard and never have the true understanding of things. And in my estimation, that's what he's talking about, right? The people who are out here telling you that this is the doctrine that you must live and die by, and if you don't live and die by this particular doctrine, then you are going to be condemned to some version of torture. They're all misleading. Most all of them have no true understanding of the things even of which they speak, much less the concepts behind them. And so we have these wise ones who really don't have any. The people who most likely have wisdom or something to actually teach you are the ones who most likely are going to face pushback, right? Instead of the fawning, they're going to have something that's going to piss you off. They most likely have the wisdom that you need. Whatever is pissing you off is probably the thing that you need to learn. All right, this is 16? No, 10, 20, 31? 31. The night song. 'Tis night. Now do all gushing fountains speak louder, and my soul also is a gushing fountain. 'Tis night. Now only do all songs of the living ones awake, and my soul also is the song of a loving one. Something unappeased, unappeasable, is within me. It longeth to find expression. A craving for love is within me, which speaketh itself the language of love. Light am I. Ah, that I were night! But it is my lonesomeness to be begirt with light. Ah, that I were dark and nightly! How would I suck at the breast of light! And you yourselves would I bless, ye twinkling starlets and glowworms aloft, and would rejoice in the gifts of your light. But I live in mine own light. I drink again into myself the flames that break forth from me. I know not the happiness of the receiver, and oft have I dreamed that stealing must be more blessed than receiving. It is my poverty that my hand never ceaseth bestowing. It is mine envy that I see waiting eyes and brightened nights of longing. Ah, the misery of all bestowers! Oh, the darkening of my sun! Oh, the craving to crave! Oh, the violent hunger and satiety! They take from me, but do I yet touch their soul? There is a gap twixt giving and receiving, and the smallest gap hath finally to be bridged over. A hunger ariseth out of my beauty. I should like to injure those I illume. I should like to rob those I have gifted. Thus do I hunger for wickedness, withdrawing my hand when another hand already stretcheth out to it, hesitating, like the cascade which hesitateth even in its leap. Thus do I hunger for wickedness. Such revenge doth mine abundance think of, such mischief welleth out of my lonesomeness. My happiness in bestowing died in bestowing. My virtue became weary of itself by its abundance. He who ever bestoweth in his danger of losing his shame, to him who ever dispenseth, the hand and heart become callous by very dispensing. Mine eye no longer overfloweth for the shame of supplicants. My hand hath become too hard for the trembling of filled hands. Whence have gone the tears of mine eye and the down of my heart? O the lonesomeness of all bestowers! O the silence of all shining ones! Many suns circle in desert space. To all that is dark do they speak with their light, but to me they are silent. Oh, this is the hostility of light to the shining one. Unpityingly doth it pursue its course. Unfair to the shining one in its innermost heart, cold to the sun's. Thus travelleth every sun. Like a storm do the suns pursue their courses, that is their travelling. Their inexorable will to do they follow, that is their coldness. Oh, ye only is it, ye dark nightly ones, that extract warmth from the shining ones. Oh, ye only drink milk and refreshment from the light's udders. Ah, there is ice around me, my hand burneth with the iciness. Ah, there is thirst in me, it panteth after your thirst. 'Tis night, alas, that I have come, that I have to be light, and thirst for the nightly and lonesomeness. 'Tis night, now doth my longing break forth in me as a fountain, for speech do I long. 'Tis night, now do all gushing fountains speak louder, and my soul also is a gushing fountain. 'Tis night, now do all songs of loving ones awake, and my soul also is the song of a loving one. Thus sang Zarathustra. This is an interesting one. This is a change of tempo and pace, right? This is a change of tone and tenor. In the most part, it is still talking about the self-isolation, and I still hold that he did not, as of yet, achieve enlightenment. He got close. He was seeking, searching, and never quite crossed the threshold as far as I can tell. And this seems to be part of that, right? Now, I'm going to talk to you again from experience because I'm good about talking about me. Even in the midst of enlightenment, you will still have days of doubt. You will still have days where you wonder, right? I am literally manifesting healing in my life. Like, literally changed my entire course of my life through physical manipulation of electromagnetic forces as a direct result of reaching at least a level of enlightenment. I am at least a step above where Nietzsche was. But even still, you can have days where you have problems. That is where the mental alchemy comes in. I just had a weekend of the doldrums, of the night, right? I'm out here attempting to do correctly. And it is discouraging to not be reinforced for doing correctly. Now, I'm fully aware of the 8 laws of creation. I live my life fully in accordance as best as I am able with the 8 laws of creation. I am manifesting literal healing in my life by following these 8 laws of creation. But still, it can be disheartening
when you are doing correctly and you do not get the positive reinforcement that you feel like you deserve. Now, for me, what I did in that particular situation was I started fasting, right? When I get the doldrums, when I get the doubts, when I get whatever, I turn directly to God. It is easier for me to listen to Him when I'm a little bit hungry. And so I will. My wife gets upset with me because I already don't eat enough. But I will just randomly say, okay, God is telling me that I am not right here. So I'm going to fix right here. And that's what I do. That's what I did this weekend. And I received a good bit of positive reinforcement this weekend. It is easy to contemplate the darkness when you are in the light. But it is much harder to attain the light if you are actually in the darkness. It is extremely tempting to return to those things that you know are effective. I come from a life a little bit darker than many people's, right? I sold drugs. I was a person who hurt people for fun and profit. I was a person who was not exactly nice. But those things were quite effective. I had money back in them days. Enough money that I was able to spend it quite frivolously on many wild things. And while that can be a temptation, it is a temptation that you are meant to overcome, right? You're supposed to remain in the light, not seek the darkness. Part of this, in my estimation, is what I went through this weekend, right? Just yesterday and the day before. Why is it not working if I am doing it correctly? Obviously, I am doing something wrong if it is not bearing fruit. I am always open for correction. I say that all the time, but I really live that. If I feel like I am doing the wrong thing, I will immediately correct myself. Sometimes it's easier than others, and sometimes you have that mental temptation that the darkness is still there. It is easy to sneak about in the dark. It is easy to do things that this world agrees with in the dark. It is much harder to live in the light. It is much harder to keep yourself morally aligned with yourself. Now, I didn't violate any of my morals, right? That's not what this weekend was about. I personally feel like there are entities, right? We talk about that a lot too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I got a Bible study. I believe that there are entities for the good and for the bad, and I believe that they can talk to you. I believe that the temptation, like what I faced this weekend, was literally that entity talking to me and trying to get me to revisit my old life. And that's why I turned to God with the fasting. Some people turn to themselves instead of to God, and that is where you get this. Right? He is vehemently against Christianity. There are other religious systems, but he is not exploring those because he is very much entrenched in Christianity's cradle, so to speak. And so it is extremely difficult to be of another religion, so he just does no religion, and that is understandable, but it ain't correct. God is, whether you believe it or not. God wants you to be the best you, whether you believe that or not. But he cannot allow that to happen if you are not doing the correct things, even when it's discouraging. That can be a hard thing to hear, but it is another one of those truths that you need to internalize. When you are on the right path, the attacks will come. 100%. Those voices that are telling you to do the wrong thing, that's not you. That's the entities. And you can call me crazy. I am fine with that. The things that tell me to hurt people, I dismiss out of hand these days. But the ones that are telling me that I might be able to make some money doing the dirty things, that's a little harder to dismiss. I still do. It sometimes takes me a day or two. But I still do it. My first thought
when that comes upon me is to take it upstairs, though. And that is why I'm able to overcome it. It has nothing to do with me. It does not even have to do with my enlightenment. Now, if you are in a state of enlightenment, if you have achieved at least the level at which I am at, right? I don't claim to be a master. I claim to be at least an acolyte. I have been inducted into the Order of Melchizedek, so I do have a little bit of understanding. But that doesn't mean that the trials don't come. As a matter of fact, they come harder sometimes. That's where we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this one up, right? We could do another one, but I don't want to go over an hour. I like keeping them right at or just underneath an hour because it is easily digestible. And there's a lot of things to digest in this particular lesson today. It is funny to me sometimes the way the timing works. If I would have pushed last week when we finished up section 1, then I would have been on this particular part last week. I would have finished this part up Friday, and that would have been before I had my particular weekend where I was just a little bit out of sorts. Right? It was not hopelessness. It was not anything of that nature. It was just a little bit. And for me, that's enough because I am trying to live light. That does not mean exclusion of darkness. Right? It does not mean that some of the things that you consider dark are necessarily darkness. It means that I am striving to the best of my ability to do what God has put me here for. I am striving to the best of my ability to uphold within myself those things which I like to see within myself. It is a journey. It is never going to be the destination until you go home. It is a continuous battle that you will have to fight. But once you get to where I am, the fight is a lot easier. I didn't consider starting a shotgun this time. I didn't consider taking medicines to go to sleep. I have a switch that I can flip. It's not even an option. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult set of topics. I understand that I hold some unconventional beliefs and that I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those beliefs. I am not intentional in doing that, but I do not apologize for it. I am here to expose truth where I see it and to call out lies when I see it. I want you to understand, my sincerest goal in the entirety of what I do over here is to help you. It is to help you to understand you. It is to help you change you in the way that you want you to change. In the same way that I am seeking to amplify within myself those things which I want to see within myself, I am trying to give you various toolboxes so that you can identify within yourself the things that you want within yourself. Some of those will necessarily include exclusion, but that is not the goal. I'm not here to tell you don't drink, don't smoke, don't cuss, don't have sex. I'm not here for that. Life is balance. If you don't understand that, you should check out the Hermetic playlist because that is where I talk a lot about that. We have talked a good bit about it here, but we really dig into it over there. Find the balance within yourself. It is not the exclusion of the things that you consider immoral. Consider whether those are actually immoral. Some of them are, right? You're not meant to be promiscuous, but you are meant to have sex. You're not meant to be an alcoholic, but it's okay to have a drink. You're not meant to be verbally abusive, but it's not going to hurt anything if you say the word fuck every once in a while. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. And if you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks because I am not a communist. I know that we're not all equal. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit Steak. Peace.